I'll move to my final comments then, Mr. Chairman. I voted for the pain-capable bill, the fetal heartbeat bill, and fetal heartbeat has been for 6 weeks now. The second week that the fetal heartbeat bill became law, a doctor called me out of Anderson. I live in Easley. A 19-year-old girl appeared at the ER. She was 15 weeks pregnant. Her water broke. And the fetus was unviable. The standard of care was to advise her that they could extract or she could go home. The attorneys told the doctors that because of the fetal heartbeat bill, because that 15-week-old had a heartbeat, the doctors could not extract. So their only choices were to admit the 19-year-old until that fetal heartbeat stopped. I asked, how long does it take to stop? She said, seconds, minutes, hours, maybe days, or discharge. They discharged that 19-year-old. The doctor told me at that point, there's a 50% chance. Well, first, she's going to pass this fetus in the toilet. She's going to have to deal with that on her own. There's a 50% chance, greater than 50% chance that she's going to lose her uterus. There's a 10% chance that she will develop sepsis and herself die. That weighs on me. I voted for that bill. These are affecting people, and we're having a meeting about this. It took that whole week, I did not sleep. I followed up with the doctor a week later. She had heard nothing, did not know about the 19-year-old. Thank God I followed up 2 weeks later. She did return to the ER. They did extract the now non-beating fetus. What we do matters.
Thank you, Representative Collins.
1 second, Mr. Chairman. I'm almost finished. Out of respect for the process, I'm not voting today. But I want it to be clear that myself and many others are not in a position to vote for this bill without significant changes to the bill. And
as Representative Newton said, if we pass this out as favorable, you'll have an opportunity on the House floor.
This is Neil Collins, a Republican lawmaker in the South Carolina House of Representatives. He'd previously voted for a near-total abortion ban before realizing the real-life consequences that such a law is having, apparently unaware that laws actually impact people. Now look, I know some of you out there might be watching this and saying, look, he's figuring it out, we gotta give these people some grace if they're gonna come around. And generally that's a concept I agree with. If there are former Trump supporters, for example, who come around and recognize the unique threat that he poses, my job isn't to shame someone for having been wrong, it's to welcome them into this fight and expand our tent. However, these Republican officials were warned. They knew exactly what the consequences of these abortion bans would be. 3/4 of this country wailed endlessly and breathlessly about the dire consequences of enacting these bans, about the horrors of forcing rape victims to give birth to their rapist child, about the horrors of forcing incest victims to give birth to their own brothers or sisters, about the horrors of putting a woman's life in immediate danger from an ectopic pregnancy or countless other complications. I'm sorry, but I have zero fucking sympathy for these politicians who are only now recognizing that what they do is more than just an audition for Sean Hannity. Zero sympathy for these people who are only now recognizing that their partisan hackery might actually impact the lives of the people that they're supposed to serve. We are not here as observers in these people's journey of self-actualization. So when Neil Collins emotionally explains, quote, what we do matters, that might be news to that guy, but it's not news to the rest of us. And the fact that it took him personally seeing the consequences of his own actions and the torture that he wrought on some poor young woman goes to show the moral bankruptcy of these Republicans. These people who are only capable of growth or compassion or understanding when they themselves are personally impacted by it. I'll bet Collins didn't sleep that week. You know who else didn't sleep that week? The thousands of rape victims and incest victims and women with non-viable pregnancies and those who've been stripped of their bodily autonomy who are now carrying their pregnancies to term against their will. All because uneducated, ignorant, uninformed hacks like this guy cast their votes without having a clue about what the impact of their actions would be. So no, I don't plan on giving him the space he needs to realize the consequences of his actions, because that space should have come before he supported a law that's putting people's lives in immediate immediate danger. And on exactly that point, notice too how Collins says, quote, "Out of respect for the process, I'm not voting today." How brave that after his whole monologue, he's taking the very courageous step of still refusing to oppose this legislation, because after all, we have to respect the process. Not that we have to respect women or rape victims or incest victims or those contending with non-viable pregnancies. Nope, what should be respected here is the sacrosanctity of the process. Phew, thank God we maintain the integrity in that. And in case you think that I'm being unreasonable here, recognize that the vast majority of Americans are with me. Americans are proving pretty damn definitively that they are not okay with Republicans thrusting their theocratic agenda onto everyone else. Just this week, Democrat Pat Ryan defeated Mark Molinaro in New York's 19th congressional district, a district that Biden won by just over a point and should have been an easy pickup for Republicans in a midterm year where the party out of power usually overperforms. Instead, Republicans lost that race definitively because that race was a referendum on exactly this point. That was one of 4 races since the Dobbs decision where Democrats have actually overperformed their 2020 performance by about 5 percentage points. And that's to say nothing of what's happened in deep red Kansas, where nearly 2/3 of voters there rejected a Republican effort to strip abortion protections from the state constitution. In other words, Americans are showing, even in the reddest of states, that they do not want the agenda that Republicans are selling. So it's all well and good that a very small number of Republicans are realizing their mistakes, but let's be crystal clear. The vast majority of the GOP is still driving full speed ahead to continue stripping reproductive rights away. This is not a party that will protect you, it is a party that will serve its own theocratic views. And the only solution is to show up in numbers unlike ever before this November, strip them of their power, and send a message once and for all that your rights are non-negotiable. Before you go, couple things. First, if you want to support my work, the best way is to subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. And second, if you want to see and hear more from me, check out my website, briantylercohen.com. That way you can get links to my podcast, merchandise, ways to donate to voting rights organizations, and so much more. The thumbnail is also right here on the screen, so go check it out. And as always, thank you so much for watching.